The auction. The air inside the auction hall was thick with incense, sweat, and rot. Dozens of alien bidders, rich, cruel, and curious, sat in curved obsidian tiers, overlooking the illuminated platform at the center of the chamber. Holographic banners flickered above the stage, displaying translations in 37 languages. Lot 112 through 116. Terran females, age range 24 to 32. Fully intact. Rare breed. The auctioneer, a bulbous Zorthari with translucent skin and a booming voice, raised his tendrils and spoke in trade common. Bidders, prepare yourselves. The first of 5 humans, Lot 112, is a fine specimen from a blue water planet called Earth. Primitive, but genetically rich. Bidding begins at 8,000 credits. Mira squinted against the lights. Her hands were bound in front of her wrists raw. She stood tall regardless, chin high, her posture defiant. The other women, Hannah, Eliza, Celine, and Layla, stood in line behind her, equally chained and equally silent. All of them bore bruises and cuts, but their eyes burned with the same thing, rage. The crowd murmured, "A full Terran? I thought they were myths," croaked a Gaul merchant, his claws tapping nervously on his armrest. "Worth more dead than alive," muttered a Veek ambassador. "Their protein density is alive," corrected the auctioneer with a hiss. "Breeding stock. Excellent uterine compatibility. Docile once trained." A laugh echoed from a private box on the upper balcony. A tall, scaled creature with green feathers and gold jewelry leaned forward. His voice slithered across the hall. "I'll offer 10,000. I like her eyes." Mira locked eyes with him. She didn't blink. "You'll be the first to die," she promised silently. "Sold to Lord Zelvar of the Green Spine Syndicate." The auctioneer barked. "Bring up lot 113. As Hannah was dragged forward, Mira was shoved off the platform, disappearing into a side corridor. The auction continued behind her, but she barely heard it. Her mind spun with names, memories, David, his hands, his laugh, the ring he placed on her finger the night before she vanished. She still had it. They hadn't found the subdermal tag embedded in her left thigh, David's last gift. Not jewelry. A signal beacon. A failsafe. Please let him be out there. She was pushed into a transport cell, the doors hissing closed. 2 guards flanked her. Their armor was cheap but functional, the kind worn by mercenaries and slavers who underestimated everything. Mira didn't speak, didn't cry. She studied the layout of the hallway through the view slit, watched how the guards moved, how often the hallway pulsed with security drones. She was buying time. Elsewhere in the hall, the auction concluded. All 5 women had been sold to separate buyers. "Secure the merchandise," the auctioneer ordered. "Prepare the next lot." In a quiet back room, a small red light blinked to life on a forgotten panel, a light no alien recognized. It blinked in a slow, deliberate pulse. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. SOS. Meanwhile, light years away, a dark chamber beneath the Rocky Mountains hummed with suppressed energy. Rows of silent monitors tracked interstellar chatter. One monitor, long since dormant, flashed green. A technician jumped. "Commander, you need to see this." Colonel David Rains walked in, eyes sharp and unblinking. He saw the signal on the monitor. ID, Mira Rains. Status, alive. Location, outer sector, system, Threxelon. He didn't speak. He simply turned to the operations board behind him and pressed a button. An alarm rang. All across the globe, 5 men stopped what they were doing. Some were in training simulations. One was working on a satellite. One was praying. All of them saw the same signal appear on their private channels. Operation Revenant. Active. Target. Extraction plus retribution. Objective. Recover wives. Clearance. Full lethal force. Back on Threxelon, Mira sat alone in her cell. The ship was preparing for takeoff. She had hours, maybe less. But she knew the signal had gone through. She smiled to herself just slightly. They had sold 5 human women. But they hadn't asked a single question about the husbands. The husbands. The war room beneath the Rocky Mountains was silent, save for the low hum of servers and the soft tapping of boots on concrete. A single signal pulsed on the primary screen. Green, steady, unmistakable. Mira Raines alive. Threxalon's system. Hostile space. Colonel David Raines stood at the center of the room, fists clenched behind his back. His expression was unreadable, but the tension in his jaw spoke volumes. Around him, analysts and operators moved with crisp precision, already initiating protocols buried deep within the Earth's last line of defense. A door hissed open. 4 men entered, each with a sealed black case in hand, eyes hard and focused. They wore civilian clothes, but nothing about them was ordinary. "Signals real?" asked Marco Vasquez, the broad-shouldered man with a mech pilot's gait and a slight limp. David nodded once. "Tag activated 43 hours ago. Myra's alive. So are the others." Owen Blake grinned darkly as he set down his case. "Then let's go get our girls." "We're not just getting them back," said Gene Park, already tapping into the mainframe. His voice was calm, clipped. "We're making a statement." Zubair Khalid remained silent, eyes closed, lips moving silently in prayer. When he looked up, there was steel in his gaze. David turned toward the center console and activated the mission parameters. 3 months ago, 5 of our wives vanished. We suspected off-world abductions. Nothing concrete until now. Myra's tag pinged from a slaver hub in the Threxalon system. That's well beyond the Accord boundary, which means one thing. They broke the treaty. Gene finished. Again, David nodded. This time, they stole from the wrong men. He brought up 5 images: Mira, Hannah, Eliza, Layla, Celine. Each of them is being held by a different buyer. Syndicates, private collectors, warlords. They think Earth is still primitive, that we don't know they're running slave routes through fringe space. They thought we wouldn't come after them, Zubair murmured. "We're going to prove them wrong," David said. Owen cracked his knuckles. "And we're going loud, right?" "No shadows," David confirmed. "No subtlety. We go in, we hit hard, we bring them home, and we leave wreckage behind." A hidden wall panel slid open, revealing an armory unlike anything outside Earth's most secret black sites. Suits of advanced exo-armor lined the walls. Weapons with alien tech fused into Terran design glittered under low lights. Plasma blades, mag rifles, fusion drills. Each man stepped forward and opened his personal case. Inside David's was a matte black command module, his neural uplink interface. He fitted it behind his ear. Marco unfolded his arm-mounted drone array and a shoulder-mounted cannon. Jin's fingers flew over a portable AI interface, already pulling tactical data from the slaver networks. Owen pulled on a custom exosuit, dark steel with reinforced gauntlets and shockwave emitters. Zubair checked the scope on his long-range silencer, then silently began loading tranquilizer, incendiary, and anti-personnel rounds. Gene spoke first. "They'll expect bounty hunters or mercenaries. Not us. They don't know Earth has a task force like this," Marco added. "They will," David said flatly. As the 5 men boarded the launch platform, a hidden door opened. A sleek black starship, shaped like a predator's talon, rested silently in its cradle. No insignia, no name, just matte plating and weapons ports. The ship's AI greeted them with a soft, synthetic voice. "Welcome aboard, Revenant." As the hangar roof peeled open to the stars, David took one last look at Earth below. "Time to collect what's ours," he said. The Revenant shot upward, disappearing into the upper atmosphere. Within seconds, it vanished into slipspace. Hours later, edge of Threxalon system, David stood on the bridge, reviewing the layout of the 5 target locations. Each was different: an orbital arena, a jungle fortress, a drifting pleasure cruiser, a slave market, and a private moon villa. He looked at his team. "We split up, 1 each. Simultaneous strikes. You sure we want to go separate?" Marco asked. David's voice was cold and clear. "They took our wives. Each of us deserves to look the bastards responsible in the eye." No one argued. 5 men, 5 warriors, 5 husbands, in a galaxy about to learn exactly what humans were capable of when the people they loved were stolen. Retribution. Space was quiet, but the Revenant moved like a hunting blade. It hovered just outside Threxalon's system, cloaked, silent, and coiled with firepower. Inside, 5 men prepared for war. Not for territory, not for glory, but for blood and love. They split off, each in their own drop pod, aimed at a different target where one of the women was being held. 5 lights streaked through the void, unnoticed by planetary defense systems. Too small, too fast, a mistake. Orbiting Arena Station. Target, Hannah, Gene Park's wife. Gene landed with a whisper inside a maintenance shaft. The arena roared with the sound of alien spectators watching pit fights below. Hannah had been made a prize. The Earthling Queen, they called her, forced to dance before each fight like a trophy. Gene patched into the station's systems through a hidden jack in the wall. Lines of alien code fell before his fingers like dominoes. He disabled life support selectively. Not for the whole station, just the guards watching Hannah. Then he flicked the lights, and then the doors opened. The crowd screamed as automated turrets turned inward. Drones dropped from the ceiling, targeting slavers only. In the confusion, Gene walked through the smoke like a ghost, reached Hannah, and disabled her collar. She looked at him, startled, then stunned. Gene, he pulled her into his arms. You thought I wouldn't come? Jungle Fortress. Target, Eliza, Marco Vasquez's wife. Marco landed in dense, steaming forest outside a biofortress. Eliza was being used as a field test subject for alien pharmaceuticals. Torture by science. He activated his mech armor mid-stride. The jungle shook as the suit roared to life, stomping forward with heavy footsteps and rocket-boosted bounds. Alarms blared. Defensive drones activated. Didn't matter. Marco tore through them. He ripped open the facility gates with powered claws and launched thermite charges into the barracks. Inside a sealed lab, Eliza was strapped to a table, eyes wide, pupils dilated. Marco, she whispered. He punched through the glass. Come on, baby. Time to go. Luxury pleasure cruiser. Target, Layla, Zubair Khalid's wife. Zubair entered silently, hidden among cargo containers. The cruiser was mid-party. Aliens in robes and feathers drank and boasted, never noticing the man slipping through shadows. He reached the private quarters where Layla was displayed like an ornament. The guards never heard the shot. One collapsed with a hole between his eyes. The other dropped midward. Zubair stepped into the room and lowered his weapon. Layla gasped. Is it really you? He nodded once, helping her up. Come. The stars are waiting. Slave Market Spire. Target, Celine, Owen Blake's wife. The spire towered into Threxelon's red sky, crawling with buyers, guards, drones. Owen didn't sneak. He arrived. His drop pod punched a hole through the market roof. He leapt out in full exosuit, energy shields flaring as plasma fire poured down on him. He laughed. Then he charged. The entire upper deck collapsed under his rampage. Slavers screamed and fled as Owen ripped gun turrets from the walls and hurled them into ships. Celine, caged behind energy bars, watched with wide eyes as Owen tore the door free with his bare hands. You made it, she whispered. I told you, he grinned. Nobody keeps you from me. Zelvar's palace. Target, Mira, David Rain's wife. David entered through the front gate. Not because he had to, because he wanted them to know. Guards raised weapons. He shot them before they moved. Zelvar's throne room lit up with alarms as David stalked forward, weapon humming with ion energy. Mira had already broken her cuffs. Somehow, she had a metal shard in her hand and blood on her knuckles. She was halfway through breaking a guard's neck when David entered. They locked eyes. No rescue, she asked, panting. Just clean up, he replied, firing twice. Zelvar rose, furious and trembling. You dare invade my domain? David leveled his rifle. You dare to touch my wife? He pulled the trigger. The alien's headless body slumped to the floor. Orbit, 1 hour later. The 5 ships rejoined above Threxelon, each couple now aboard a separate wing of the Revenant. On the main screen, Gene prepared broadcast. They'd cracked into the slaver networks and taken over comms. David stepped into frame. This is a message to all systems, he said, voice cold and clear. You took 5 human women. You thought Earth was weak. You were wrong. He paused. We found them. We brought them back. And we burned everything that stood in our way. He leaned closer to the camera. If you ever come for Earth again, send your gods. You'll need them. Transmission sent. The message. The ashes of Threxalon still drifted through orbit like the remnants of a broken empire. Below, 5 facilities once used for trafficking, experimentation, and display were now nothing more than scorched ruin. From orbit, they looked like surgical wounds, precise, cauterized, and final. Aboard the Revenant, the warship that didn't officially exist, silence reigned. Not grief, not fatigue, just stillness. The kind that followed a finished job. David Rains stood on the observation deck, staring at the dying planet below. Mira sat beside him, her hand in his. She hadn't said much since they'd escaped Zelvar's palace, but she didn't need to. The quiet between them spoke, louder than words ever could. They'll retaliate, Mira said at last, her voice hoarse but steady. David didn't look away. If they're smart, they won't. Behind them, the other couples sat together in varying stages of exhaustion and recovery. Hannah leaned into Jean, watching old Earth recordings on a tablet. Eliza, still bruised, dozed on Marco's shoulder while he silently cleaned his mech's arm cannon. Celine and Owen stood near the armory, laughing quietly at something only they understood. Zubair sat cross-legged, whispering a quiet prayer under his breath as Layla rested her head in his lap. All of them alive. All of them changed. David turned to the console. Jean, run it again. The screen lit up. The same message, now bouncing across known systems and pirate bands, streamed back in fragments. Their broadcast had spread like fire in a dry galaxy. Already, reports were coming in. The syndicates had called emergency councils. Pirate networks were scattering. Slave markets in the Orion Drift were burning their own records. No one wanted to be caught holding human property anymore. The universe had learned something new. Earth was not prey. Command room, later. The couples gathered for a final mission debrief. David stood at the center, looking over them all. We've done more than rescue. We've exposed the black market to galactic eyes. They thought we were ignorant. They thought we were isolated. He gestured to the hologram. A wide swath of known space now lit with Earth's flagged response code. Aegis directive protocols were active in over a dozen listening posts. We're no longer hidden. That was our choice. Zubair looked up. Do we regret it? David shook his head. Let them come. We won't be caught unaware again. Marco raised an eyebrow. You thinking of going public with Revenant? David hesitated. Eventually. But for now, we stay in the dark. Ghost with teeth. Jean added. The AI networks are already buzzing. No one wants to admit humans pulled this off. Too surgical. Too fast. Too angry. They're right, Mira said suddenly. Everyone turned to her. She stood, meeting every gaze. They didn't just take us. They declared war on our lives, our loves, and our planet. This wasn't a rescue. This was a warning. A slow, solemn silence followed. Then Owen grinned. Best date night I've ever had. Laughter broke the tension. Even David smiled. Earth orbit. 3 days later. The Revenant decloaked just long enough to transmit reentry codes to Earth's orbital defense grid. Then, like a myth returning to reality, it descended through the atmosphere. As they broke through cloud cover, the curvature of Earth revealed itself. Brilliant blues, deep greens, white storm bands swirling like marble. Home. Mira stared out the viewport, fingers pressed to the glass. I thought I'd never see it again, she whispered. David put his arm around her. We came for you. Always would have. She turned to him, expression unreadable. We weren't weak, you know. We resisted, fought in little ways. Survived. He nodded. I know, but now they know too. Epilogue, Galactic Comm feed. A flickering signal pulsed on slaver frequencies. The screen showed static, then a message burned across it. Earth Response Protocol. Level Omega unauthorized entry to Sol System will be met with deadly force prior incident. Threxalon System. Slaver losses. 1,924 personnel. 27 structures. 1 warlord status. No hostages. No mercy. Then a final line. You took 5. That was your mistake. We only needed one reason. The feed cut. In the dark corners of the galaxy, warlords took note. Slave routes were rerouted. Human-related bounties were pulled down. And every smart empire made one quiet, unanimous decision. Do not touch Earth.